Watch this shocking video allegedly showing a youth girls basketball coach plowing through a parent in a school parking lot after a rec league basketball game, and he has kids in his car. That coach is now facing charges, and his town has banned him from rec events. But the coach is not the only one facing charges. On Friday, the parent who you see get hit in this video was hit with a charge by the Connecticut State Police. Here's his mugshot. Let's hear what you have to say about this one in the comments section. If you played sports as a kid, especially when we're talking third and fourth grade basketball, it was obviously all just for fun. No one was getting a college scholarship on that Saturday morning when you're playing just with your friends. But you may remember moments where you have parents that get caught up a bit in the heat of the moment, end up arguing with parents on the other team. I don't know how uncommon that may be, but what's certainly uncommon is what we saw in Connecticut. According to Connecticut State Police, this coach now under arrest for plowing through a parent in a parking lot after an argument after a basketball game. His name is Bryan Baez-Rivera. Let's roll the surveillance video. This is from Connecticut State Police. They say the car that they've circled here is the one that Baez-Rivera was driving. Also, as you watch this, know that there are young kids in his car. Now, this took place after a youth girls basketball game. The players are in the third and fourth grade, according to the town's website. The alleged victim in the video is an adult with the opposing team. His name is Jason Surprenant. According to the Connecticut State Police, Surprenant got into an altercation after the basketball game with Baez-Rivera. In the parking lot outside the gym, video shows Surprenant approach Baez-Rivera's car, then the coach plows right through him. Now, we won't show you the moment of impact, but Surprenant goes right over the top of Baez-Rivera's car, which speeds away. Surprenant has non-life-threatening injuries, according to police, but he's now facing a charge as well. Connecticut State Police charged him with second-degree breach of peace. Baez-Rivera told police that the video actually shows him trying to get away because he was scared for his kids and his own safety. Remember, his kids were in the car. He says Surprenant came at him in the parking lot and threatened to punch him. Baez-Rivera also claims, according to the arrest warrant that we read, that he hit ice and couldn't stop, and that's why he went through Surprenant. Baez-Rivera called police shortly after it happened and then waited for them to arrive at a business down the street. Connecticut State Police didn't agree with Bryan Baez-Rivera. They say he made no attempt in the parking lot to avoid that victim. The 29-year-old coach is now facing second-degree charges of assault, reckless endangerment, breach of the peace, and 2 counts of risk of injury to a minor. He was released on $5,000 bond. The Department of Children and Families is also now involved, given that he had kids in the car. On top of that, the town of Windham, Connecticut, which is where Baez-Rivera coached, told local station WVIT that they dismissed him from being part of town rec department events. Joining us now from Connecticut is criminal defense attorney Don Papsy. Don, you look at this video, you see what played out in the parking lot after this third and fourth grade girls basketball game. What do you see as an attorney?
You see a lot. I mean, first of all, you see a person run over another person in the parking lot after a youth sports game. I happened to be interested in this story when we were in contact because I myself have multiple children in the 10-year-old range, right around fourth grade, around this level. So I spend all of my time as any youth sports parent at these basketball places. My son's in hockey and some other sports, but my other daughters, and he has a twin sister that's 10, that's in soccer. You see a lot of this hostility. It's amazing how aggressive. Anybody who's involved in youth sports as a parent knows that it can be a kind of an aggressive place, more aggressive than it obviously should be at that level. There are a bunch of kids after all. But then that spilled out over into obviously the parking lot. And, you know, you're going to have a person that when you look at the video, he obviously, the one parent's running aggressively after him in the parking lot. So he's the initial aggressor at that point. It doesn't matter really what happened inside the arena at that point because they had disengaged. And once you sort of disengage and if you wanted to bring this up like as it was a self-defense type issue, you know, he's trying to get away, which is a form of, I guess, self-defense. And is he using reasonable force? I don't know if this is exactly the avenue, but let's just say we're going down that avenue of a self-defense type situation. It's whether or not it's kind of a subjective and objective situation. So it's subjective in the sense that you have to bring that as a defense that it was self-defense. The parent was
Right.
running after the car, running pretty aggressively after his car. He takes off, but then he has to make that corner to come back around. He's got a car behind him, so he can't. You have to flee. You have to be able to retreat if you can safely. But he's got his kids in the car. He's got a car behind him. He makes that turn. The parent then, after running after him aggressively, then runs to the other side where he's trying to leave and obstructs his ability to leave. So in that case where you're not just defending yourself, you're worried, obviously, about this person is obviously trying to engage you. He's now run over to the other side of the road and blocked you. You're in the car with your two young children. Who knows how capable you are as being able to involve yourself in a physical altercation with this obviously very angry person, right?
Right.
Not the initial aggressor in this situation, which you have to look at, because anything that happened inside, I know they had some sort of altercation, I believe, inside the actual arena, that doesn't really matter, because once they left, all that was disengaged. And the coach that was driving the car is now just driving away. So he's disengaged at that point. So it doesn't, now the initial aggressor becomes the person running after the vehicle. And then he's in that spot where I can't back up. I have my kids in the car. I have this guy who's just chasing me now has run over and blocked my ability to leave. And then you have to make this split second sort of decision on how do I get myself out of this scenario.
So they'll play
making that decision.
So they'll play this video eventually when this case, if it does go to a trial. That argument that, hey, I was in this altercation, I was nervous, I have this parent running after me, that will be his defense. I mean, you've been in the courtroom for these cases. How strong of a defense is that? Because then I presume the prosecution is just going to press play, and you're going to see someone who hit the gas and then hit this parent who is standing in the middle of the road.
Right. So what I would concentrate on is, and this is what I like to do a lot of the time, say, you can't look at these things in a vacuum, and you're not supposed to. And the judge, I always go to what the judge's instructions are going to be on this type of charge. And for a self-defense, an affirmative defense, once you bring it up, they sort of have to prove back. The burden shifts to them, and they kind of have to prove that you weren't doing it or wasn't reasonable. So the first thing you look at is they break it down into two sections. You're allowed to use physical force to protect yourself. It's whether it's reasonable. If the person thought that it was reasonable, that they had to use it, that there was imminent harm, and then the degree of what the force was reasonable. And that's on an objective standard. So that's whether you believe that's reasonable. So one of them is subjective. So subjectively, they're going to play it in a vacuum. And what I would be saying is this isn't a vacuum. You have to look at these circumstances. I believe this was an away game for him. There was obviously an altercation already in the arena. He's trying to leave with his two children in the back of the car. He doesn't have a way to retreat, which is one of the requirements, at least for deadly force it is. But, you can make an argument that he wasn't really trying to apply deadly force. And this person, ran after his car prior to him running over to the other side and blocking him. So he's aggressively ran after him. So he's, engaging in what I would believe if I was in that circumstance, and that's what I would ask a jury to believe. Look at this. Let's go back and just pick through the subjectivity part. You have a person who's running after your vehicle aggressively, which he definitely was if you watch the video. Then you speed away. But the only way for you to get out is to make that turn and come back the other direction. It's the only choice he had in that video. So he comes back to the other video. This person runs over there and blocks his view. And then I'd be asking, okay, subjectively, if you were in that situation with your young children in the car, would you want to just escape the scenario? It's not so much the force he was using. Yes, hitting the gas that aggressively could be thought of as I mean, it might
Yeah.
just come down to how aggressive he hit the gas. Maybe he could have done it a little slower, a little faster. But again, you're in the moment. You have your young children in the car that you do probably anything to protect, not just yourself, but you have to worry about them as well. You're worried that this guy clearly is trying to engage you, and all you're doing is like hitting the gas to try to get out of there. And I would ask a jury, it's up to the jury to say, now objectively put yourself in that situation. No, you can't really say it that way, but you'd have to say a person
Sure.
in a situation because you can't make them put themselves in it. Yes. But that, you put if you're in that situation, which he clearly was, I mean, what else is reasonable?
Well,
Was he
because you
supposed
have
to
like
stop that?
the Connecticut State Police looked at it when they watched this video and they said he made no effort to not hit this person who was standing right in front. And that was the reason that they charged him is after they watched the surveillance video. How do you, if the law says that you have to, what does the law actually say about in those situations of self-defense? Because it does seem like a pretty gray area for whenever we talk about self-defense, but you know the law in the state of Connecticut. How much does the law apply to that moment that he made a decision to hit the gas and drive forward into this person?
It's a case by case basis. So there's no law the law is specific as to the charges and what constitutes, the risk of injury charges just because there were children in the car. If there's a domestic incident and there's a child in the room, you get charged with risk of injury. Even though the child wasn't involved in the actual altercation, that's a normal charge they'll charge you with, even though just because the child was there. So the risk of injury is sort of like an added on feature that, charge, and the counts are because it was multiple children. That's it. And breach of peace is a very broad statute, that it could be a lot of things. It could be any kind of pushing, shoving, or even just yelling at people out in the parking lot or something could rise to the level of a breach of peace charge. It's the reckless endangerment and things like that the charges themselves. You might meet the element of those charges in the sense that it was reckless behavior, but then you're saying, yeah, maybe it was under certain circumstances, but then you bring up what's called an affirmative defense. And that sort of shifts the burden a little bit. Now you're saying, okay, I want you to look at it from my point of view, from my client's point of view. And that the affirmative defense isn't the charge itself. You have to bring the affirmative defense. And then the prosecution has to attack the fact that, no, this wasn't subjectively reasonable. I think they would probably attack more of the objectivity of the use of the force, that he hit the gas and that was unreasonable, because you do have to meet that reasonable standard either way, and not really attack his subjectivity, because I think many people in that circumstance, in the moment where this all happens in a matter of seconds, and I would bring up, what's the choice here? What's the choice? You stop your vehicle. He's run to block you. He's not a pedestrian who's crossing the street. You're just running him over. He wasn't mad at the guy and saw him in the parking lot because he had an altercation with him, and he went and ran the guy over because he was mad at him. He's trying to escape himself, and this person is running after him and blocking him. The next step, you have to assume that the next step that this person that's blocking you, if you did stop your vehicle, is to run around to the driver's side and try to pull you out of the vehicle. I mean, that's what I would. Or else are you doing it?
On the flip side of this, I think of the person who was hit. And I know you do civil litigation as well. And he has non-life threatening injuries, but you watch the video and you know that the possibility that there could be some medical bills here. What case, if there is a conviction in this case, or even if there isn't, what case does he have? Who potentially could be sued? I mean, could the town where this game took place be sued? The town of Wyndham, which is who this coach coached for, could they be at risk of a lawsuit knowing that all of this played out in the parking lot? And I know we were talking before, I was just looking at the Darien Times here online saying that the town admits that he didn't go through the proper background checks that coaches go through to be part of this rec league. I mean, if you from the civil point of it, if you're an attorney, what are you looking at if you were defending or representing the person who was hit by the car?
Yeah, I mean, the stuff about the coaching, if there was something that happened at the actual game that had to do with the coaching, and he was there and he's not safe sports certified or whatever the case may be, to be a coach, that would all be stuff that happened inside the arena. Once he leaves the arena, and he's in the car and he's on his way out, there's really no reason that this other person should be, running after him. If I was representing that guy who gets hit though by the vehicle, obviously I'm arguing the opposite. I was standing in front of the car. I wanted to block him. Maybe the narrative would change to, I had no intention, obviously. My client had no intention to engage him. He wanted to have a conversation, and he just decided to run him over. And therefore that's negligent. You can't run people over in the middle of the street, regardless of how you feel or what you thought that he was doing.
Yeah.
It's certainly negligent to do so. It's interesting. I don't think you might have a case against the facility for not providing some sort of security and saying that they knew or should have known because of, they're at these type of events. They're often, like I said earlier, in personal experience, I've seen it, parents getting into it, and there's never any security at any of these places. It actually, you bring up a really good point, Chris, because I never see any security at any of these games, hockey games, basketball games, soccer. And you see parents, you'll see YouTube videos of it all the time. All we do is talk about hockey. So my phone constantly sends me, videos.
Hockey's intense though. I played youth hockey. I know what it's like in a rink on a Saturday morning. Especially I played youth hockey in Connecticut. So I know how intense. We both know how parents can be in those games. Because that was the thing, though. Like you talk about security. This was third and fourth grade, girls basketball, which I think was something that grabbed so many people's attention. It's like, what argument? And that's something that hasn't really come to light yet. Is like, what argument are you having about a game, whether it was a call or something like that, in a elementary school basketball game that turns into what we saw in that camera?
Listen, I don't think it really matters. Is it any better if it's 10-year-old boys playing hockey? I know hockey's a little more
right. No, sport, yeah,
but I've seen it in baseball. That's baseball's the calmest, longest sport. There's literally no contact at all ever, and just over balls and strikes, or someone called out at first because when they were clearly safe or something like that, and parents lose their minds. I've seen coaches. My son was actually on a team where a coach was suspended because he argued with the ref out on the field, and to the extent that the league suspended him because he was awful the entire game, engaged the parents on the other sideline on the other bench, to the point where the parents kind of had to get involved. And we were in a not so great area either, and so I had to get involved and say, hey, this is kids. These were 8-year-olds playing baseball, right. These parents take it super seriously. Everyone thinks their kid's going to play college baseball or it's basketball or soccer. I don't think it really matters what sport it is, because it's not the kids who are the problem. It's the parents are the problem. They're a bigger problem. Has nothing to do with the kids at all. It has to do with the parents and how they react to what probably was, even whatever happened in the arena. What could it have possibly been that it had to be that serious? What was really 100%. Happening in the basketball game that it had to be an argument that then spilled out where this guy had to chase a vehicle? What could possibly have happened was that? There's no. That's why, and I don't mean to go on and on, but that's why I think it's really interesting, because I think a jury in this situation might actually look and see, because you'd be saying, why is this person running down this other person's car and then running to get in the way of their car over a fourth grade, 10-year, those are 10-year-olds or 9-year-olds, 9 and 10-year-old basketball game for kids. I mean, it's a kids youth fourth grade basketball game, and this parent decided to go outside and run after, and obviously very in an aggressive way, run after another coach, parent, doesn't really matter, and then run and try to block him again after he doesn't get him the first time. So you never know. I think in those situations, I think you might actually see a jury say, you shouldn't have been running after you. Juries do whatever they want. If I've learned anything, I've learned, we talk to them a lot of times after the trial. You're allowed to if they will talk to you. And we always ask the judge permission, and we ask them nicely. And a lot of times they want to talk. They want to tell us what their reasoning was. And we try to talk to them afterwards as much as we can, try to get some insight for future cases. And it's amazing the theories they come up with on their own. We're constantly shocked, about what they say.
You can break down the X's and O's of everything, and then it just comes down to what a jury decides. It'll be interesting to see if this case, it's obviously just in the beginning, if it's something that does end up going to a trial. Certainly the video is getting a lot of attention. I'm sure our comment section's on fire right now with people watching it. Don Papsey, criminal defense attorney from the great state of Connecticut. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Chris. I hope to see you again soon.
Baez-Rivera is due back in court January 23rd. I want to know what you think about this video. Does Bryan Baez-Rivera have a case here? Let's hear it in the comments section. Until then, for Law and Crime, I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.